أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. This is a handout and it's like another checklist. I like one-page handouts. This one is titled, Am I Doing Shirk Right Now? You know what shirk is. It's a kind of polytheism and worshipping someone other than Allah. But we are living in the last days of the world. And shirk, polytheism, idol worship, whatever you call it, associating partners with Allah, is very, very common. There are many, many kinds of shirk, and most people practice shirk without even realizing it. But shirk is no ordinary sin. It's extremely dangerous. Allah tells us in the Qur'an that He would never forgive shirk. And if someone dies while doing shirk, then they must go into the hellfire. But the purpose of this handout is not to point fingers and to find out who is doing shirk, but to self-examine. Because when we say Maliki Yawmiddin, we are saying Allah alone controls judgment. Allah alone controls the day of judgment. A day is like 1,000 years or 50,000 years with Allah. So the period, the age of judgment, Allah alone is in control, and we shouldn't point fingers and say of anyone, friend or foe, relatives or strangers, enemies. We can't point fingers and say this person is going to hell. That is not right. And you all probably know the story about the children of Israel, where there was a man who killed 99 people and came and asked a rabbi, is there forgiveness for me? And the rabbi said no. And so he killed the rabbi and completed 100 and went on looking for someone else. And then he met another rabbi and he asked him the same question, and he said, yes, if you go to such and such town, you can find forgiveness there. And so he rode on his horse and went towards that town. On the way over, his horse stumbled and he fell down and broke his neck and died. And the angels of mercy and the angels of punishment fought about him. And they went to Allah and asked him. They said, and Allah told them to measure the distance between his place and the target town as opposed to the town he came from. And he said, if it is closer to his target town, then the angels of mercy have him. The story is just a symbol of Allah's mercy. This is a man who murdered 100 people, but he wanted to repent. And so it is said that Allah stretched the earth to make it so that the man is closer to the target town, and so the angels of mercy got him. Alhamdulillah, and we all throw ourselves at Allah's mercy and ask Him for forgiveness. So this handout is only for checking oneself. Am I doing shirk right now? So what is shirk? Shirk is to worship someone other than Allah. Well, we all know that. The principles in this handout are found in many places in the Qur'an, almost on every page. And so I will not be citing ayahs or verses, but we say, Iyyaka na'budu, we worship you alone. Only you do we worship. So shirk is to worship someone other than Allah. But what is worship? In Arabic, na'budu or abada ya'budu, an abd, which is usually translated as slave. What it actually means is to love someone so much that you submit to that person. And that's only appropriate with Allah. So worship is absolute love, which leads to absolute obedience and submission. We must do whatever Allah asks us to do. Allah asked Ibrahim, alayhi salam, to kill his son, and Ibrahim obeyed, but the knife did not cut. Allah rewarded Ibrahim for his obedience by making him his best friend, his khalil. Our Imam's name means best friend. And the Qur'an says, وَاتَّخَذَ اللَّهُ إِبْرَاهِيمَ خَلِيلًا. Allah took Ibrahim as a best friend based on Ibrahim's loyalty and absolute love and submission to Allah. This kind of blind, blind might not be the right term, but this kind of absolute love to the point of whatever you do, lover, whatever you do, my love. If we do it with people, it would be called sadomasochism. It would be called insane. And in fact, if Ibrahim had done the same thing with anybody else, we would say that Ibrahim was insane. And he would be doing shirk if he had loved someone else to the point, let's say Ibrahim had an elder in the community, and the elder said, I want you to sacrifice your son, and Ibrahim said, yes, sir. Then Ibrahim would be insane by, from our point of view, and at the same time, Ibrahim would be committing shirk. Shirk is insanity. To submit to someone and love someone as much as you do Allah is insanity. But on the other hand, if we worship Allah in such a perfect way, without any shirk, then we have zero insanity. And if we stay that way, then eventually we become very wise, we become sages. So shirk is the basis for becoming wise and intelligent and sane. And not shirk, perfect worship. And shirk is the road to insanity and to losing one's mind. Again, this is for ourselves, not for others, for judging ourselves. And if we love Allah with absolute love, then Allah will love us back. And His love will bind us into wonderful marriages, which in turn, these marriages, these little families, bond together into a beautiful community, one family at a time. Allah's love, our worship of Allah, which is absolute love, is the path to having that bond. And it does require loving such a powerful Lord. Allah is most powerful, to bond the hearts that otherwise would have hostility with each other. And Allah promises love and mercy to be between the hearts that love Him. And so loving Allah to the point of worship is also good for the community. It's good for our relationships. As our Imam often says, and I'm quoting him here, we cannot question Allah's commands in the Qur'an. If we feel uncomfortable with a verse of the Qur'an, and that's not something good, and we have to deal with it. We have to take care of it. We can't have discomfort with the Qur'an. But if we feel uncomfortable for some reason with a verse of the Qur'an, it's okay to have that for a time, but you have to deal with it. If we do, then we must only question our understanding of the verse, not the Qur'an, not the verse itself, because that would be rebellion against Allah. We do shirk when we worship a person or a thing like money or food, and we then feel absolute love and submit to that person or to that thing, to money, to food. So addiction is a kind of shirk, and so is obsession. Remember that worship is absolute love that leads to submission, complete submission. And that is only proper with Allah. If you do it with others, then you're doing shirk, because you're equating those others or those things with Allah. That kind of relationship is a healthy relationship with Allah, but it's not healthy. So exhaust that kind of relationship with Allah. Every one of us has a need to love absolutely and to submit, and the only one who deserves that is Allah, because He's most beautiful, He's perfect. So let's do that with Allah to the max, and then we're free from slavery to others. We're free from the insanity of having that kind of love toward anything or anybody. When we have an attitude, when we're reading the Qur'an, we have an attitude that, I hesitate to live by that ayah, or I refuse. My attitude is that I refuse to obey that ayah. That too is shirk, because if you don't obey Allah, you automatically obey shaitan. So, and then the Qur'an tells us that repeatedly. They only worship other than Him, females or shaitan. And so hesitation and refusal to obey Allah automatically leads to shirk. Allah would turn you over. In fact, whoever turns away from Allah's dhikr, and dhikr means the Qur'an. Dhikr means to remember. Dhikr means to think. But most importantly, dhikr means to study. The Qur'an is called a dhikr, which means the thing to study, the textbook. So whoever turns away from a dhikr, that is from the Qur'an, then Allah will prepare and assign to him a shaitan to become his mate. And that is shirk. He would then obey that shaitan instead of obeying Allah. So all kufr is ultimately shirk. All disbelief is ultimately shirk, because you have to worship someone. When Bob Dylan, who is originally Jewish, when his wife, who is Jewish, divorced him, and he had difficulty accessing the children, he became a born-again Christian, and he sang a song which goes something like, you have to serve someone. You got to serve someone. And in response to that, now this is just a little bit for relaxation, talking about pop culture. In response to that, John Lennon, the guy who sings Imagine, he wrote a song and rebutting Bob Dylan, saying, no, you don't have to submit to anyone. But later, before John Lennon was assassinated, he became interested in Browning's poetry, and he sang something about growing old together and worshiping God. So we don't know whether he is a mushrik or not. We don't know whether he's a kafir or not. I have learned not to say of anyone that he's a kafir, or he died a kafir, or he died a mushrik. Every time we disobey Allah, we commit a sin. But a sin is not shirk. unless we believe that we have the right to disobey Allah. When you think you have the right to disobey Allah, then you are a kafir and a mushrik, because you automatically will be obeying and worshipping something else. Definitely a shaitan. Or when we have an attitude toward Allah, an attitude, when children, especially teenagers or children in phases where they become defiant, when they don't obey, we say they have an attitude. When we have an attitude with Allah, that is shirk. And then the attitude would be something like, I want to obey whenever I feel like it. If I don't feel like it, I don't want to obey. So there's a difference between sin and shirk. Shirk is an attitude. Sin is a slip. It's an act of foolishness or an act of anger, or you do it under circumstances and then you regret it. But if you persist in it and you believe, you feel justified in doing it, then that attitude is shirk. And this is why Allah alone has sovereignty. He is the supreme authority. He alone has the right to make supreme law. And the Imam was pointing to that when he mentioned yesterday that if someone comes to us and wants to argue about homosexuality, we say, no, stop. We already have a decision about that. Allah has made His ruling clear. We don't let anyone give us a law above Allah's law. Allah alone has sovereignty, and that's a legal term. That means the one who has the right to make laws, to make original laws. Now, when we derive laws from Allah's law, we are not playing God. But if we make laws that contravene, that are opposing Allah's law, then we are playing God, and we're being mushriks, we're practicing shirk. So Allah alone has the right to make supreme law. It is shirk to believe that someone else other than Allah has the right to change Allah's supreme law or to make his or her own supreme law. Only Allah has the right to determine what is right and what is wrong. And when Allah leaves something open, then we are taught by the Prophet, and we are taught in the Qur'an, because every hadith is based on the Qur'an. There is no hadith that is additional to the Qur'an. Everything is based on the Qur'an. The scholars have taught us. Those who know hadith and who know Qur'an, they taught us that. The Qur'an says, allowed for you are all good things. So if Allah doesn't say this is bad for you, it's allowed. And in fact, when the Muslims were questioning, making too many questions, Allah warned them not to ask too many questions, because if they ask about something, then Allah will make a ruling. And Allah does not like making rulings unless it is necessary. Allah would rather give us flexibility and have us be relaxed. Islam is about ease and leniency and liberty of thought and action. The rules are only made when they are absolutely necessary. And even then, rules are made flexible so that we can use our mind when we are in a situation, rather than run to the sheikh and the imam and ask for a fatwa, which is not the behavior of a sane person. Allah expects us to use our mind. Most people commit shirk by determining what is right and wrong, regardless of what the Qur'an says. And sometimes you find someone saying, well, I know what the Qur'an says, but that's, that was for the Arabs, or that was for 1400 years ago, or that's an Oriental thing. No, the Qur'an was not revealed for the Arabs. It was revealed for all of humanity. And it is not Arabic in any way. Allah created the Arabic language, and the Arabic language is divine, and the way Allah uses Arabic is not the way the Arabs use Arabic. So there's nothing in the Qur'an that is influenced by Arab culture or the Arab mind or the Arab way of using language. Allah has created all languages, and the language of the Qur'an is definitely not something of an Arab culture or the way Arabs talk. Allah has never used an expression that the Arabs invented. The Arabs used a language that Allah created, and the Arabs misuse it regularly. And Allah uses Arabic in the Qur'an in ways that are different from the dictionary and different from tafsir and different from what most Arabs and scholars of the Qur'an think they know. And that's why Imam W.D. Muhammad kept asking Allah to show him a better way, and that is the proper way to look at it. You have to keep reading the Qur'an, and the more you read, the better you understand. You will always make mistakes. Following one's opinion in determining right and wrong is absolutely the most common form of shirk on earth. And the Qur'an mentions that in Surah Al-Kahf. وَاتَّبَعَ هَوَاهُ وَكَانَ أَمْرُهُ فُرُطًا. I think it's ayat 25 or 26. We are warned not to follow in the footsteps of those who follow their own hawa. Hawa means what you feel like, what you feel comfortable with. If that is how you determine what's right and wrong, then you are a mushrik, you're doing shirk. So who's the God here? You, yourself. You're worshiping yourself. Your self-worship, placing oneself as a sovereign, as a supreme authority that determines right and wrong, is the most common form of shirk, and it is the one that will be prevalent according to Surah Al-Kahf, which tells us about the situation, the circumstances of the earth in the end days. To have a safe future in the next life, ask yourself as often as necessary, whenever you are thinking about what you want to do or what you refuse to do, whenever you're thinking about what to do or what you don't want to do, ask yourself, is this in accordance with the Qur'an? Or am I having a shirk attitude in my mind right now? After reading this, I hope you understand what shirk attitude is. So inshallah, read some Qur'an every day and think about applying it, because that's what the Qur'an is there for, to live by it. And this was written in this season of shirk. It was written for grown-ups and also for children. The style is to be simple, so that even a 10-year-old would make something out of it, or even a younger child. And but it's also good for grown-ups. And inshallah, I will use this, and I advise everyone to use it because this is the disease of the age. Mostly to worship oneself, to have an attitude that I am reading the Qur'an and I will do this later. No, once you understand it, you're bound by it. The Qur'an is a witness against you, and you can't evade it, you can't run away from it. So when you are introducing someone to Islam, be careful not to give them too much, because you put them under a real hardship. You're doing fitna, which is you're kind of pushing them toward disobeying Allah or losing faith, and Allah will give them leniency there, but we have to be gradual. But as Muslims who have been Muslims for a while, we have learned to pray and so on. It is incumbent upon us to learn the Qur'an and live by it. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala ashrafil mursaleen. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahmanir Rahim. Maliki Yawmiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'een. Ihdina as-sirata al-mustaqim. Sirata alladhina an'amta alayhim. غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين